I want to do another one of the cutting drills. Earlier I did a video showing the cutting drill based on snake in the grass. And the thing about snake in the grass is it works on distinct grips. The grip we call baseball bat, where the forearm and the sword are at 90 degrees. And the grip we call longitudinal, where the forearm and the sword are in a rough line. In snake in the grass, you're switching back and forth definitively between those two grips. The other thing snake in the grass does is it teaches you to move the tip and the hilt separately so that you start to perceive the different parts of the sword as you go through this. I'm going to do the drill this morning now that's based on swallow scooping water. And in this one, the grip and the sword are changing all of the time. So unlike snake in the grass, where you hold a fixed grip, in this one, the sword is moving in my hand all of the way through here. So I've got to actually follow that and allow the sword to change as it goes. The other thing I have to do is make sure that I hit the specific checkpoints so that I'm able to make the motions in the correct direction. So the checkpoints on this one, the final postures, you're in a 70-30, exactly square to the front. When the left foot is forward, the right hand is palm up, and the sword is parallel to the ground, blade vertical. So watch for a tendency to droop the sword or to hold it up or to tilt the sword so that when you get to the end, the blade didn't come right up to the front. So that's one checkpoint. Left foot forward, sword to center line, blade vertical, and parallel to the ground. On the other side, when I come up here, it's a little bit different. 70-30 to the front again. The tip is right on my center line, but the hilt is higher. And when I do this, watch for this kind of a thing, raising the shoulder. So it goes out to the tip. So a good way to practice this first is just do the cuts on one side and then the other side. Start with your weight in the back foot. Front foot has just touched down heel first. The tip of the sword is towards the rear corner. And cut forward. And then come back. And do it again, cutting forward. And what you want is you want a slicing of the sword as it comes all the way through here. And as you do that, your awareness will move along the blade. So here, you feel your rear foot, your rear hip, and the hilt. And as you come through here, you want to throw your awareness, the energy out along the sword so that you feel the tip. A lot of times people don't quite get out to the tip, and they end up with a move like this, where I've only reached to about here. So actually, out to the tip, not just stopping part way. Notice where my other hand is. My secret sword hand is following along all of the way here. Then on the other side, again, starting with the weight in the back foot, front foot, heel first. The tip of the sword is pointed towards the rear corner. My awareness is in the hilt, and as I throw it up and out, I want to reach out to the tip. So watch that cutting of the edge as it goes through here. In this one, tip is to the center line. Secret sword hand feels like it's supporting it. And the cut is along a curve coming up. So you can practice these two, one side and then the other side. And this is starting to show you another one of the checkpoints. The checkpoint that the sword is in the rear corner just as the heel touches down. The checkpoint that the sword is in the rear corner just as the heel touches down. So you're working that. There's two other important checkpoints which are on the way after the final posture. I cut up and I sit back. When I sit back, the blade of the sword is flat relative to my body, and the sword itself is at a 45-degree angle to the ground. So I sit back, blade is flat, sword is at 45, not parallel to the ground, not vertical. And importantly, you don't draw the sword back and drop the hilt in order to get the tip up. You cut and keep your awareness in the tip. Then as you come back to making the next step, then bring your awareness down into the hilt. Cut up And on the other side, I cut up. When I sit back, this is kind of the same checkpoint. The blade of the sword is flat to my body. The tip is right and on my center line. And I did the same thing. I'm not drawing it back. I send it out. I stay in the tip. Now bring your awareness into the hilt. Just as the tip touches down, front heel touches down. Come up and out. Tip, tip, gathering in. Just as the tip gets to the rear corner, front heel touches down and out. So this is a really good one to practice because the grip is changing all of the time. You've got very specific checkpoints to hit, and you need to move the awareness through the sword continuously as you do this. One mistake that people often make is to miss this checkpoint of the tip is at the bottom as the hilt moves so that the sword comes up and out. And instead what they do is they kind of swoop down. Swoop and out. And you can play around with this and see what a difference that makes. When I do this, I end up in my palm at the end of this. And the first motion is down, not forward and out. What you want is that you have a clear checkpoint here, and now the motion is forward and out. So really look for that swoop as it comes down and take that out of the exercise. Same thing happens on the other side. I've come up, I come back, I let it drop. The tendency, again, is to swoop. And so make sure it ends up down here as you're doing that. Be careful in the corners. It's easy to twist across the body. It's easy to do this. I don't turn my waist enough, and my arm goes across me, and you can see how I'm all caught here. So what I need to do is as I sit back, my waist is turning. My waist continues to turn as I put the sword down and step. When you step, there's a tendency to come back to the front, which you see crosses the sword across my body. So when I step, I stay in the corner, then I go to the front. When I step, see how I disconnected the sword. I stay in the corner, then I come to the front. So these two, Snake in the Grass and Swallow Scoops Water, are really great cutting drills to practice, and they're worth your time. The one thing I didn't say, pay attention to the edge of the sword. This swallow scooping water cuts with the same edge of the sword all along. It's like an optical illusion or a Mobius strip or something. It seems impossible. But you're always cutting with the yang or knuckle side of the sword all the way through here. So I'm cutting, and now watch. It's the same side of the sword that cuts all the way through here. So pay attention to the edge as you're doing this. So these two are great. You should practice them. You'll learn by doing that.